meeting January 20th. Sound check one.
Good morning. We have quorum present, so I'd like to call this meeting of the Business Improvement Area Subcommittee to order. Please be reminded that all electronic devices are to be switched to a non-audible function during committee meetings. I will commence with a roll call. Please indicate your presence when I call your name. Councillor Tammy Huang.
Present.
Councillor Esther Pauls.
Present.
Councillor Maureen Wilson.
Present, thank you.
Susie Braithwaite from International Village.
Here.
Tracy McKinnon from Westdale and Stony Creek.
Present.
Adrian McLee.
Present.
Susan Penny from Waterdown.
Present.
Heather Peter from Ancaster.
Present.
Doris Sanchez from Concession Street.
Present.
Thank you, Doris. Bettina Shorman from Lock Streets and Regrets. David Taylor from Dundas.
Present.
Emily Walsh from Downtown.
Present.
Stephanie Wheeler from Ottawa Street.
Present.
And me, Nadine from Barton Village. I'm also present. May I have a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda as presented? Moved by Susan, seconded by Stephanie. Are there any amendments from committee members to the agenda? Seeing none. Please indicate your vote now by show of hands. All in favor? Motion is carried. Are there any declarations of interest? No. Seeing none, we'll move on. We'll just skip that piece. December 16th, may I have a mover and seconder to adopt the minutes of the December 16th, 2025 meeting as presented? Moved by David, seconded by Heather. Any discussion on those minutes? Please indicate your vote by show of hands. All in favor, motion is carried. Now we'll address all items for information and then receive them all together at the end. For those providing presentations today, please remember that presentations are now limited to 10 minutes. First is 7.1 financial statements and the client assistance package. I'd like to call upon Paul Ciapana from KPMG to please, I guess you don't have to turn on your camera, but please share your presentation or your verbal update.
Verbal update. Sounds good. Hi, everyone. Paul Ciapana, partner with KPMG. A lot of us have probably had communication several times over the last few months just to get these audits wrapped up, but we're almost there, almost across the finish line. So just leading into next year, we've again circulated the client assistant package, which really hasn't changed from last year. It's a good checklist to kind of go through and update as you kind of get into the planning for next year's audits. We've already looked at timelines. So I don't know, Steve, if you're going to go through timelines, but right now we're scheduled on our end to complete the audits in April and June. And we have staff scheduled at that point. So there's the two tranches of BIAs. The first group will be, I think the deadline's in March and the next deadline is in May, and those are for June groups and September groups. So we're going to split up the BIAs into two different groups similar to prior years and have the staff scheduled on that. Just going through a couple things. So I'll be the partner. Lauren Willett will be the manager. Her contact information will be circulated. But as you upload your packages, we'll have to Joanna. She'll upload it to our collaboration site once they're available. And then once we get them on the collaboration site, we'll reach out to each of the individual BIAs to get the audit started. I'm not sure if I did have some comments on the client assistant pack. Do we want to go through that now or now's good? So just a couple things to be mindful of for next year. I've been working on these audits since 2014. So I've seen them evolve over the years, and they're just getting better and better over the years. So kudos to everyone and all the bookkeepers. Just a couple of things to be mindful of. There's been no changes in accounting standards or accounting pronouncements, so you can expect a very similar report for the upcoming year. No changes to the management inquiries document that has also been circulated. Couple things to remind your bookkeepers just to be aware of. Just continue to ensure the opening retained earnings agrees to your ending retained earnings. One area that's always a struggle for us is our materiality is based on usually the level of revenues and expenditures. So materiality is quite low for every BIA, which is probably the biggest area of frustration, because if we do find an error, it just results in that many more samples. And unfortunately, that's just a Canadian auditing standard and the methodology that we have to abide by. So I do know that sometimes it's tough pulling all the samples and supports, but if we do find an error, it just means we have to test more to get comfort over that balance. So just because there's invoices and support sent for one initial group of samples, it could result in additional sample items. Cutoff is always an area of concern and things to be mindful of. So that's either 2020 for this year, for example, 2023 items recorded in 2024 that should have been accrued for in 23, or 24 items that are recorded in 25 that should have been recorded in 2024. So there is enough time to look at financial statements and look at invoices or potential expenses that relate to a specific period and adjust for it prior to coming to us. So just keep that in mind, look through your bank statements, and make sure everything's in the right period. If there's anything that you or your bookkeepers have questions on or don't know how to fix or don't know where to book, just reach out to me. Like, I'm pretty responsive on all my emails. So if there's something that you are confused about or don't know where to book, just reach out to me and I'll help guide you in the right direction. In terms of accruals, again, just make sure the BIA levy that is assigned to you agrees to what's on your preliminary draft financial statements. There's a specific line for that, and then the other side of that is going to be either cash or your due to or from the City of Hamilton amounts. We do have some adjustments that we book each year for accruals. So again, be mindful of those adjustments. If we accrue for something, the reversal is the accrual. It's not just put through your income statement all over again. So I can work through with your bookkeepers on looking through those adjustments and understanding how they go through your financials. And one last point, if you could just help me with for this year, the budget, whenever your budgets are approved, just note on that client assistant pack the date they were approved at what meeting. Some of the meetings, it's pretty clear when they're approved, but other ones, they have budget updates on ongoing periods, so I'm not sure when those approvals are. So just something to note in your client assistance pack. Any questions for me? Hopefully the process is getting a little bit quicker and a little bit smoother on our end. We do have typically junior staff working on these files. I find they're good learning experiences, but if you ever get to a point where there's frustration or maybe the questions aren't the right questions, please escalate it to a manager or partner, and we can usually move things through pretty quickly.
Thanks, Paul. Are there any questions? Can I pass the chair to Susie so that I can ask a question? Great. Paul, for those of us that are not accountants or bookkeepers, you mentioned an error being the thing that would flag the request for samples. Can you give us just a quick example of what an error might be that we would potentially catch?
For sure. So the way our audit starts is we'll start with your financial statements. GLs are also uploaded, so your general ledgers. We sample based on entire population. So we would take all your expenses and we run it through a system and it picks the samples for us. We can't actually go in and pick what samples we want to select. So what we would then say is, okay, we've picked 10 out of the 100 expenses. Please give us invoice support and payments. If we were to get an invoice back, let's say for an expense, and it related, let's say we're doing 2024 audit and it related to 2023. Well, why was it recorded in 24? Maybe it should be recorded in 23. So that's an indication of a cutoff error. Or if the amounts didn't agree, or if the HST was the non-refundable and refundable portion of the HST was not calculated correctly. Those are all errors or accumulation of errors that require us to then go in and select additional samples to get comfort on the rest of the population. So what would happen if we didn't select samples is they would take that error, our system that we pull the samples from, and it would say that is representative of the entire population, and therefore we can't sign off on your audit. So we then select more samples to get comfort over that population so we can then sign off on that audit.
Thank you. Any other questions? I'll take the chair back from Susie.
There's one question on screen.
Oh,
Sorry.
Emily.
Sneaking in there, yeah. One issue that we've run into in the past is providing support for different grants. So whether it's the Canada Summer Jobs Grant or a city grant, we have a hard time finding the proper documentation. Like you apply for a grant, you tell them what you want, they basically send you what you're going to get with not a lot of documentation as to why that decision was made. Is there a best practices for what kind of support to provide in those instances?
So for a Canada Summer Jobs Grant, typically what's okay with me is if you send the approval letter. So usually get approval saying you've been approved X number of people, and then we just need to see the bank statement showing that that money's coming in. That's typically sufficient on my end for those sorts of grants. It's more the grant letter to show that you were entitled to something, and then the money actually coming into the bank. If the money hasn't come into the bank, and you're accruing for it for that year, there should be something from that granting body that gives you an amount that you're accruing for. Otherwise, how can I validate what you've accrued? There's no way for me to do it. So that's the level of support if you did not receive the money by the time of the audit.
That makes sense. So with the Canada Summer Jobs one, if those numbers didn't match, like if they say you're getting this much, but we only claimed this much, would that come back as an error?
If you were never going to get the difference. So if Canada Summer Jobs Grant says you're going to get $10,000, you've only spent $6,000, and you're only going to get $6,000, you should adjust your number to the $6,000. If you're going to submit another submission to get the remaining $4,000, then you can keep the $6,000 and the $4,000 as accrued. But if you're never going to get that $4,000, you should adjust for it prior to it coming to us. Otherwise, it would be an error.
Okay, so the only kind of fix that we would have to make is what we put in as an accrual when we were given that grant before it came into the bank accounts?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Another question?
Susie has a question.
Oh, you're on mute.
You're muted, Susie.
I should know this. I just have a quick question. When will we be getting our invoices? I don't know if that's to you or Christina for last year's audit.
So whenever we issue a draft set of statements, that's when I usually invoice for the audit. The invoice goes to the City of Hamilton. It does not go directly to the BIAs. I'm not sure how that works from the city's perspective, though, how it gets ultimately to the BIA.
Christina, would you be able to tell us more on that, or?
Sorry, let me turn my camera on. I'm not sure, Steve from Corporate Finance, if you're in the room, if you could comment, because I know that the city covers a portion of the audit fees, and there's a portion of it that is billed to the BIAs. That doesn't come from my department, that comes from corporate services. So I'm not sure if someone's there that can speak to that.
Hi, Stephen Redden. We are working to bill for 2023 and 2024 right now. Because of the cyber attack, we had some issues with getting the billing done on our side, so we are working on that. I can give an update to Christina once we have a timeline of getting those out.
Okay, great, thanks.
I think I saw Susan with a question as well.
Sorry, I'm going to save some of this for our the workshop that we have scheduled. But just to your point about the errors, we seem to get a lot of repeat sampling requests from different junior people, that it starts with one person and then somebody else asks similar questions that have some of the same samples on them. And we are never notified that there is an error. So, you know, this idea that it's an error that triggers it, to the best of my knowledge, we never hear back that there was an issue with the samples that we provided. And yet we continue to get more blocks of sampling requests, and some of them have the same ones that we've already provided documentation and information on. So I'm interesting to hear that that's an error, because I've never been told that there's been errors on my samples.
Yeah, so there's a few aspects to that just to address. So I think one issue is we have multiple people sometimes working on the same file, and you can pull one set of samples from the income statement side and one set of samples from the balance sheet side. So let's say I have someone working on accounts payable. Well, the flip side of accounts payable is expenses. So let's say someone pulled that same sample in expenses and then pulled the other side of the entry in accounts payable. That's why you'll usually get a duplicate request, just them not communicating together and putting their sample requests in. If there's additional samples on expense testing or whatnot, then a lot of the time they wait for manager review and partner review before they would go back to the client and say these have resulted in errors. Just in case there's been times where they say it's an error, they selected extra samples, and it's actually not really an error, right? It's just they didn't know the right classification or accounting or whatnot. But usually all of any error that we identify is identified in the management rep letter that is sent to each BIA prior to issuing the financial statements. And typically when I send those or the manager sends them, we'll send the management rep letter that has all the adjusting entries, the revised trial balance with the adjusting entries, any control deficiencies, if any, and then the draft financial statements. That's typically our process.
Thank you.
I don't see any other questions, so thank you very much, Paul, for the update and the information. We'll move on then to 7.2, special events application process. I would like to call upon Sarah Linfoot-Fazina, project manager, special events and planning, to please begin your presentation.
Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see all of your faces this new year, and some new faces actually since last year. So I'm Sarah Linfoot-Fazina. I work in the Recreation Division, and I work with our cross-departmental team called the Special Events Advisory Team. I've put our email address there, which many of you are familiar with, seat@hamilton.ca, and also our website, hamilton.ca/event planning, where we have all of our information. So this is just a quick agenda. I was invited to come to your meeting today to review our process and timelines for 2026, and this is for hosting public events on city property. I'm also here to answer any questions that you may have come up with since I last saw you last year, and I wanted to check in also with our event listing that I know Christina's been sharing with you throughout the year, to see if we can add any additional information or gather some feedback about those as well. I just put together a small sampling of events that took place in your BIAs in 2025. Out of approximately 350 events that we reviewed and took place citywide, there were 40 that took place in the BIAs, which is almost 10% of our overall events. Just a quick overview of the city's application timelines and late fees. Organizers of returning events were emailed a link to the 2026 application on December 15th. As in past, if you know your event calendar for 2026, we encourage you to submit your applications prior to the end of January, because on February 2nd, we will have the application link on our website for anybody new or anybody returning that hadn't submitted their application. It'll be available there for all. A reminder that we require 60 days to process your requests, that we may charge a late fee for late submissions. And we are using SurveyMonkey Apply again this year for 2026 for your applications. Therefore, everyone, hopefully, if you don't, everyone should have a login and password and be able to access applications that you've submitted previously. Please note, you don't have to complete your application in one sitting. You can save it and come back, but you do need to supply a site map as part of your application submission. Told you it was going to be really quick. But before taking any questions, I wanted to check in about those monthly event listings that we've been sharing with Christina, and I know that she's been sharing with the team. Wanted to see if the listings are helpful to see what's happening in your BIAs. Also wanted to check and see if there was any additional information that you'd like to have on those reports. So if we could start there and then have any additional questions.
Thank you, Sarah. Any questions or responses to Sarah's question? Councillor Huang.
Thank you for your presentation, Sarah. Just a quick understanding too, because I know that we're kind of live streaming this, but what happens when we have to have like a very fast, we're inside of that 60 days? What can we do to make your life easier? Because we know that it's inside of those 60 days. It's very rushed for everyone. So what's a good best practice? Not that we want to do it rushed every time, but just
Yes.
what happens in those sort of like circumstances?
So in those types of circumstances, and we do get last minute requests that we typically are able to accommodate, but really if we can have all of the information about the event, so the locations we can check for availability, if folks can start gathering their information for their insurance, or let us know if they're doing game day. Again, a site map, super helpful for us to troubleshoot any, electrical issues or water hookup issues that we could work on quickly. So I think it's just having all of that information is helpful for us in terms of expediting the process and then reaching out to those reps that would need to comment.
My second question, if possible, was are we going to do or move to a more of an electronic process at some point? Because right now it is quite manual to submit all of this documentation, and also because sometimes stuff gets missed as well. So is there an opportunity for, say, a portal or something like that in the future, not necessarily today?
So the application's actually, it's an online portal. It's the same system that our City Enrichment Fund uses as well. So what's handy about that is there's a lot of applicants that apply for grants as well as for event approvals, and they can access all of their information in one location. So that's great. The other thing that we've improved for this year is that for those large events, I don't think there are any from the BIAs, but anyone requiring an emergency response plan, we've made that information accessible, that it's already pre-populated so that folks can just go through and review and make sure the information is accurate and make any changes that they need to. So that saves people time. So I think, that online environment for our application process already exists. And then in terms of permitting, a lot of that is still manual, although Recreation put online last year, there's opportunity for people to book their own pavilions for, say, picnics and things like that. Those go up online for people to book themselves and pay as well electronically. So
forgive me, I don't usually do this heat process. Pascal's on my team usually does it, so sorry about that.
That's okay.
Thank you for your answers. Thank you.
Okay, next on the speakers list, we have Emily from downtown.
Thank you. And thank you, Sarah, for the presentation. I know I'm also a huge fan of the monthly event page, so love that. Thank you very much for adding that on. Just wanted to check if SEAT collects feedback from event organizers about specific parks or maybe challenges that they're encountering in those parks and how that process works.
That's a really great question, Emily. We actually sent out a customer satisfaction survey this year for the first time. So we did get quite a bit of feedback, not specifically about amenities in parks, but any challenges folks had with their events. So that was a real learning for us and really handy. But I think that that's a great question. Is there something, could you give me an example of something specific that?
Yeah, in both of our parks, we've almost entirely lost power access. We're now renting upwards of 3 generators for every event and still lose power quite often during our events, which leads to a little bit of panic. So it's something we've been working on with our councillor trying to get fixed, but just overarching for all the parks. I know I saw some discussions at council about food truck infrastructure at Bayfront and improving that kind of stuff. I just didn't know if that was also on the radar for the smaller parks as well.
Yeah, there's nothing formal other than the survey that we send out. And of course, we work closely with our colleagues in parks, right? Because we do have a representative that sits on our team. Let me take that back and see if there's something that we can do collaboratively between Recreation and Parks in terms of gathering some more of that information.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, next on our speakers list is Susie from International Village.
Just speaking further to that, it would be great if on our event days we had a contact. So for instance, lots of times there's issues with the gates at Ferguson Station, or we need something done last minute. Like, is it possible when we get the approval back for our SEAT application, there's also like a contact number that comes with that, or like prior to the event, somebody can reach out and send us that number, because we often have to call into the city's front desk, but then they're not open on weekends necessarily, and then they have to try to find somebody. So it would be nice to have a contact. I mean, we're spending thousands of dollars on these events. It'd be nice if we had someone that if we needed help, we could refer to. Just some feedback on that.
Thanks, Susie. Just to clarify, do you mean for events that BIAs are running or events that are happening within your BIAs? Yeah.
The events that we're running, yeah.
Okay, yeah, thanks for that. In terms of, the space itself, and I know that a lot of these are taking place within parks, or for example, Ferguson Station is considered a parks asset. The standard procedure is to call the 546 city number and report through there, because they're able to then dispatch the supervisor on call. But it's certainly something that I can take back and see if there's any improvements that can be made there. I know that the superintendents for each district are typically, on call as well. So let me see if there's something we can improve on that end. Is there any other, are you thinking anything related to public health, or is it really primarily the space that you're using?
It's more just the space. So like last year, for instance, one of the back gates wasn't opening the morning of Hamilton Day. And then it was just like us calling the city and waiting for them to get a hold of somebody. And by the time that happens, a lot of times our events have started, and then that affects our events. So that's why it would be really nice to just ahead of time know who's sort of, paying attention to the event that day and who is our contact. It's usually the same couple people, but it'd be nice if we had their direct lines if we needed it.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Let me take that back to the team and see if there's something we can do for that.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Next on the list is Councillor Pauls.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, and through the chair. Sarah, beside the parks, electrical or opening or issues that they may have you ever had complaints in parks where the residents do not want that event because of maybe noise, parking. And when you do get those complaints, what do you do about it?
It's an excellent question. And I know we've had some challenges at TB McQuestion, for example. So thank you for asking it. Typically, there are some parks that have been identified as maybe not being the most appropriate for large events, and TB is one of them. Simply because the parking infrastructure isn't there, the parking lot's too small. It is a very heavily used park by residents and folks that want to use it for walking and things like that. So over the years, as we've trialed events at certain parks, if there have been issues, they've been documented. In some cases, we've had to move events, and I know we've done that from TB. Any of those really large ones that we can't accommodate that have had too much of an impact on the neighborhood. So I would say it's a balancing act, right, of trying to encourage activities in all of our neighborhoods in the city, but also being aware of how they impact the residents and the neighborhood. So it's trying to find that fine balance of what can take place in a certain park and to what extent. And then, if something is not working, seeing if we can find another home for it.
That's great, Sarah. So we do have clarification which parks are good for certain events. So you look at it, like McQuestion Park, like you said, it's not good for big events. Can you name me a couple other parks that you have listed? Do you list the parks where they're good or not? And that's the BIA receive those information where they can, if they think they want to do an event?
Again, that's a really good question. We don't have anything official that's in writing, although we are working on a seat policy updating that, and that will speak to certain locations that we've, through experience, have discovered just aren't suitable. A good example from this past year was William Connell Park. We had quite a large event that wanted to take place there, but it was on the same weekend as there was soccer, and on the same weekend as someone wanted to use the pavilion for a private rental. And so we're really being very careful about what we accept for that park for this year to see if it can coexist with existing activities. And if it can't, we're finding other locations for those events. So.
I think that's great because people call me first. Yeah, I want to do this event. Can McQuestion Park? We want to do soccer. We want to do that. And I think, Sarah, if we had a policy where the parks are listed and say what kind of events is good at that park, I think people would look at it before, they call the counselor thinking I could give them that park. And I think it's important for them to know the reasons why that park is not suitable. So I think it'd be great if we could have that in a writing or under parks or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's important too that we, that it's transparent for everyone to know why something doesn't work, right? Great. TB is a great park, but when you only have 100 parking spots and you're trying to accommodate a large event there, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So
thank you for that. Thank you.
Okay, Emily is a second-time speaker. Are there any other first-time speakers? Any other questions? David from Dundas.
Thank you. Just a quick question around applications and input from the BIA. For us in Dundas, this doesn't affect us a great deal except for one particular event at this point. It is Cactus Festival, but issue for us is this completely and utterly affects our BIA, and we're not even at the table to sort of discuss how this might work. Just a question then is what do our BIAs have to do to have a little some input or at least a seat at the table to hear some of the applications being on that directly affect us?
thanks, David. It's nice to meet you also. It's a really great question. So when it comes to roadway events, and I know we've had these discussions before, organizers have to notify, right? Any resident or business that's impacted by the road closure. And that is the official process in terms of folks identifying any concerns, for example, about the event taking place. To answer your question, we don't have anything formally in place that the BIAs have a voice at the table. Our seat table is really just internal staff members. It's not, there aren't third parties that come to the meetings and discuss event approvals, but that doesn't mean that the BIAs can't have a voice, right? And that we can't hear what those concerns are. And so my recommendation would be that early on in the process, like this time of year would be a really good time to start those conversations and put things in writing so that we can have those discussions with event organizers. And, you know, again, if there's roadway impacts, there is that official process where it can be, folks have the opportunity to contest the road closure. So that is a formal process that you can use or access. But if there are some things that you want to work on collaboratively, you're not feeling like you're getting very far with a particular organization, we're happy to be, the neutral voice at the table to hear the concerns and try to work through some of those issues with event organizers.
Right. So all that has been our experience. Is the notification isn't what it should be, and frankly isn't really taken into account. So, Madam Chair, I don't know if this is the place to do this, but I would like to move that as staff be directed to have, if it affects a BIA, if it's an event taking place directly in a BIA, that the BIA have representation at the table when the application is heard.
Thanks, David. I'm just checking with Elsie Bates to make sure we're following process.
Yes, David, you can put that on the floor, and I think it's fairly clear. Normally, we have motions in writing, but what you've said is clear. So you just need a seconder, and then we would vote on it. But what I'm going to ask you to do is to hold off and put that motion on the floor after we've received these two information items. Okay.
Understood.
And that will give you a little bit of chance to put it in writing and email it to me, please.
Okay. Will do. Thank you.
Okay, we still have some, so we're going to put a pin in that until after we receive and vote on the items for information, but we still have some first-time speakers. Susan from Waterdown.
I think I already know the answer to this question, but with the deadline for the returning events, we have a couple things that we are waiting for information from outside organizations and partners before being able to confirm our dates. So my goal is usually to try and get the information in right away and hold our spots and reserve our spots. But in those instances where there might be one or two potential dates, is your best recommendation to just not do that application until the date is confirmed? Or can we put in for a date and have a note in there to sort of tentatively hold for an alternate date as well? What's your suggestion?
Thanks, Susan. We actually earmark all of the dates from the previous year into the following year. So, for those applications we haven't received and you don't know your specific dates yet, Susan, I would just hold off and just ensure that you're getting those in 60 days prior. I don't have, when I'm thinking about Waterdown BIA, typically those events are taking place either on the sidewalk or at Memorial Hall. And like I said, any of those annual events we've earmarked and said, we expect it to be around a certain date. So I'm not overly concerned with, new applicants coming in and trying to book those locations. So, I mean, you're welcome to email us and, provide us with the dates that you expect. But, if you want to hold off until you have all of the information, totally appreciate that as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Okay. The only other first-time speaker, I think, is me, but I'm going to just echo David's suggestion, just with regards to, I love getting the listing and knowing what's going on through the applications, super helpful. Just wishing that we were involved earlier in the process. So, yeah, it looks like we have a number of people that would be interested in seconding David's motion once we get that wording together. We do have a second-time speaker, Emily from downtown.
Hey again, I just wanted to kind of jump onto Susie's comment about the day of challenges and note that one of our biggest ones, especially in Gore Park, is parking challenges. So with the park being so small in the loading zones there, a improperly parked car can be the difference between having an activation and not at our event. And we very much struggle with getting anyone out within 5 or 6 hours to be able to do anything about that car, let alone remove it once it's been ticketed. So that's a huge impact on us in the small parks downtown and something that we'd love to have a day of contact to help us out with.
That's a good flag, Emily. I hadn't thought about, when I think about the south leg of King, we always think about it as not open, right? But that doesn't mean people aren't using it for deliveries or for pickups. And so, yeah, that would be, I'll bring that back to our parking enforcement team and see if there's anything, again, if there could be anything proactively done on the days that you're running your event and closing that portion.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I think that's all the questions. So we'll go through and may I have a mover and seconder to receive items 2.1 and 2.2. Moved by Susan, seconded by Doris. All in favor? The motion is carried. And we're going to go back now to the motion that's being presented by David, which I think we're just clarifying on wording.
Sorry, I'm still working on it.
Yep, that's okay.
It's okay. Through the chair, David, if you just want to reiterate your motion again, and then I believe when we were dealing with this the first time, Tracy put up her hand to second.
So I would have it as this. If there is an application for an event which takes place within a BIA boundary, that BIA be represented at the discussion of the seat application.
Am I allowed to ask clarification from David?
Yes.
David, if I'm hearing you correctly, and in the wording of a motion, it would be to direct staff to report back on the feasibility of adding the BIAs? No?
Sorry, I'll let David answer the question because maybe that is what he wants, but I don't think so.
I would say that,
Yeah, sorry, I know, because I know there are interested parties who weigh in, like HSR, for example, or emergency services. Are you asking that the BIAs, if there's an event application within the boundaries of a BIA, that the BIAs get added to the list of interested parties for review of the application?
correct.
Yeah, we're just clarifying procedure and wording here.
Right.
Through the chair, it's Tamara from Clerks. I would ask if maybe the best idea would be to David, to withdraw your motion at the moment and bring it back in writing to the next meeting so we can clarify the ask and what would be required. That way we can talk to staff about what's needed, because at this point, I'm not really sure whether this would need to be a report back or whether, because it seems it would need to be a change in policy that would need to be approved by council. So we need to make sure we have that language clear.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that, and I will prepare that and start that process for sure.
Okay, thank you, David.
Yep.
Okay, then. We'll move on then to updates from the Business Development Office. Christina Geisler, Business Development and Business Improvement Area Officer, is here with an update for the committee.
Hello, everybody, and Happy New Year for those of you that I have not chatted with. Just have a few beginning of the year updates to go through with everybody. So the BIA annual reports, thank you to everybody that has uploaded their documentation to the sync folder. If for whatever reason, just to remind everyone, if you're having problems with sync, you can send me the documentation directly. I transfer all of that information out of this third-party sharing documentation application, and I save it on our internal staff folders. So you can send it to me directly if you're having problems with sync, but I think the majority of people have submitted most of their stuff, so thank you very much for that. BIA Awards of Excellence are on schedule for April the 1st, 2026. Thank you to everybody for your nominations. I believe I've received everyone's nominations. I will begin vetting all of the applicants to make sure that there are no conflicts with open permits or any tax and arrears or anything that would kind of prohibit them from being a BIA award winner. And then we will start the process of having the awards created, having the photography taken, and communication to all of the award winners on processes for their tickets, and if anybody needs extra tickets for the event day itself. So there'll be more information coming for the BIA awards. Reminder that 2026 is a municipal election year, and as such, BIA boards of management will also be subject to be refreshed, potentially with elections if there is more interest than spots available as per your procedural bylaw. I will send out all of the processes to be followed. This will kind of tie into your AGMs that will be happening for most people later in the year. And then I also just wanted to remind everybody that any business requiring council approval, we will have to try and get that done before August, because then once it kicks into the elections, council will pause. So we want to try and get, specifically for contribution to operating budgets. So I will do my best to try and get those allocations out to you guys as soon as possible, so then you can make your requests through the BIA subcommittee, and we can get all of that financial stuff taken care of before things go quiet. I'm also going to be working on a budget template for your 2027 budget reports. This is really in an effort to make the budgets that are being presented to council more consistent. There's more clarity to council on how budgets are being allocated by each of the BIAs, which continue to be completely at your discretion. But we just want to have a more consistent look and feel. So I'm going to be working on that template, and I will be sharing that with all of you guys. But that's really, I'm looking to implement that for the 2027 budgets when those reports start going to council. Shared parking allocations for 2025. Apologies for the delay. They did come in towards the end of December. So those allocations now, you guys have those amounts. If whenever you guys are ready to claim that funding, you just have to bring a motion forward to the BIA subcommittee, and then I will work on getting those amounts paid out to each of you. Shared parking allocations are allowed to be carried over. So if you're not sure or there isn't a specific thing that you want to use the money for, just keep that in mind. You can carry it over. The Junos, the $2,000 funding that was presented to you by our tourism partners, thank you. It sounds like we've had an expression of interest from all 12 BIAs, so I was really excited to see that. So Pam Mulholland, who is managing that funding stream, I know that she's been copied on all of that, and there will be more information coming forward. But I just wanted to thank everyone for participating in that funding that was allocated to you guys. And also, Black History Month is coming up very quickly, the month of February 2026. So if you have any events or any activations that you are planning to do that would tie into Black History Month, if you could please let me know. I do sit on the Black History Month committee through the mayor's office, and it would be really nice to give them a summary of everything that's happening across the city, across the BIAs in Hamilton. So if you have anything planned for Black History, if you could please let me know by the end of this week, that would be very much appreciated. And tying into that, if I could also ask all of the BIAs, if you could send me an email with a summary of all of the events that you have in plan for 2026. I just need the names of the events and the dates. Our quarterly meeting with our tourism partner meeting, I've been asked to do a presentation, and I always like to every year do a summary of all of the great stuff that's happening across the BIAs. So if you could send me the list of the events that you have in plan, it doesn't have to be etched in stone. I know that these events there's always things subject to change and unexpected things that kind of come out, but for what you know as of now, if you could just confirm with me what those are again by the end of the week, if you could, that would be very, very much appreciated. And then lastly, I just wanted to share, there is a new eligible criteria under the Commercial District Revitalization Grant, most commonly known as the Facade Improvement Grant. Recently added is a new eligible expense is permanent waste or recycling enclosures for the purpose of storing waste or recyclable materials until regular scheduled pickup. That is now an eligible expense. It has to be located on private property. It has to be constructed of durable materials. It must be fully enclosed from public view. But this might be a nice way for businesses or property owners to get a matching grant, at least a portion of those costs covered for any enclosures that they may be thinking of doing for waste enclosures. Thought I would share that because I thought that was a great thing that's been added to the CDRG grant program. And that is all my updates.
Thank you, Christina, for your robust update. Are there any questions for Christina? Emily from downtown.
I just wanted to quickly flag on the timeline for the 2027 budget. I know we start looking at that pretty early in August. So if we could have that all ready to go for then, that would be phenomenal.
Are you talking about the template for the budget?
Yeah, so we start building our 2027 budget in August. So
I am hoping to have that to you for sure before the end of Q1. So that'll be coming very shortly.
Super, thank you.
Any other questions? I have a question. Christina, how were the BIA award categories chosen? And are we able to provide feedback or initiate a discussion around them?
Always happy to get feedback. These are categories that have been defined for quite some time, predating me. But if there is suggestions or a new category or modifications to the categories, please let me know. I will take it back to the team and absolutely consider it.
Great, thank you. I don't see any other speakers, so may I have a mover and seconder to receive the update from Christina? Moved by Tracy, seconded by Heather. All in favor? The motion is carried. We'll move on now to 11.2, statements by members. I would like to invite BIA members to provide us with their updates, and we'll go in alphabetical order, starting with Susie Braithwaite from International Village.
Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. I don't have too much to report. We're still in full swing planning mode, trying to figure out what this year's going to look like. We are still planning to do our Pride events this year, which is exciting, in June and I believe end of September. So yeah, just really busy. Wanted to thank Nadine for doing her delegation on behalf of all of us yesterday to GIC. Really well done. Really important that council sees how this is going to negatively affect our businesses. I think the fact that we were all able to jump together and pull a delegation together within hours was really great. So thanks again, Nadine. You represented us really well. And that's all I have for this month. I just in full on planning mode right now. So hopefully I'll have more to report next month.
Thank you, Susie, and thanks for the feedback. I appreciate it. Tracy McKinnon from Westdale and Stony Creek.
Thank you, Nadine, and thank you for the great speech yesterday as well. So I'll just run through them. In Westdale, we're pretty much at 100% occupancy. We've got one small office on the second floor, which is good. We're just doing our year-end wrap-up and report stuff and planning for the new year. Moving over to Locke Street. Again, we are almost at about 98% occupancy, which is we're very pleased about. We have our AGM next Monday, and we are again finishing up year-end reports and doing applications and all that stuff for 2026 planning. And then in Stony Creek, we are at virtually 100% occupancy there as well. We are working on our year-end reports and all the planning for 2026. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Tracy. Adrian Meckley from Hess Village.
Thank you, Nadine. Hess News, one of our tenants was in the news recently on CH, and the Spec Absinthe has closed down. So that was a live music venue. I got publicity, obviously, with the Junos being in Hamilton. We're working, we feel bad that their business model wasn't successful, and we're going to be working hard to replace them. It's set up for a live music venue, stage, bar, liquor license. So we're hopefully can find somebody with, energy and a modern idea to take over that space. Speaking of the Junos, Hess Village being in such proximity to TD Coliseum and having all the hotels surround us, we're working hard in throwing events and working with the city and tourism and using the live music grants to really make Hess a special place for the Junos. So that's what we're working on, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Susan Penny from Waterdown.
Similar to everybody else, we've had a lot of committee meetings and planning meetings in the last 2 weeks. We have a board meeting tonight, and hopefully we'll have most of our year confirmed and be able to move full speed ahead on executing on those programs. We are excited to bring back a couple of programs that we ran pre-COVID. So hoping to have a full year roster of programs. That's about it for me right now.
Thank you, Susan. Heather Peter from Ancaster.
Hi. Yeah, so just echoing what everyone else said, we are planning for the new year. We had all of our committee meetings last week and a board meeting last night. So we're just firming up all of our plans for the year, all our events, marketing, and we've got some good things planned for this year. So it's exciting.
Thank you, Heather. Doris Sanchez from Concession.
Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year as well. Okay, goodness, my plate is full. Planning on events for the coming year. In terms of vacancy, I have 2 that are persistently vacant and 1 recently vacant. My first event will be February 1st, and it's a K-pop sing-along. It's fun at the we're holding it at one of the newer bars to introduce them to the public. And then, of course, we're putting together a fashion show and a concert on Friday, March 27th, along in conjunction with Juno Week happening and getting all the players together, confirming partnerships. That's top of mind right now. And otherwise, it's going to be a 2-pager for events happening for 2026. That seems to be the direction that the board of directors wants to go. Thereby, it will take longer to plan them and put them together. Otherwise, it's all good.
Okay, thank you, Doris. David from Dundas.
Thank you. I'm going to echo what everybody's talking about here. We're fully in planning mode. Our AGM is a week from today. And beautification is our focus. We've got the city and our decoration supplier in next week to kind of do an audit of the street. And we are working towards welcoming some new litter receptacles and some new street signs. And we are working to put for some new banners this year as well. So that's kind of the focus at the moment. And I'll cut it short there because I'm working from home today, and the 2-year-old terrier that we have adopted has decided that this is the time to tear around the house and and have a little case of zoomies. So, and also thanks Nadine for a great job yesterday.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it. Emily Walsh, downtown.
Same here. We're planning, we're getting ready for 2026. Very grateful for Nadine doing such a great delegation. I know downtown we've really struggled with the rollout of recycling. Our days were getting switched down here and doesn't really seem like it's fully taken off the change, but hopefully getting better every week. Other than that, we're excited to hear that we have a new comedy/music club opening up in the bottom of the Wright House, which will be really neat. That one's called Ridiculousness. And we're also been enjoying all of the attention that King William and specifically Relay have been getting lately with the filming of Heated Rivalry happening there. So that's been a little cool start to the year as well. That's all for us.
Thank you, Emily. Stephanie Wheeler, Ottawa.
Hello, everyone. Ottawa Street is also in planning mode. We have a lot of great returning events this year and reimagined events. We have a board meeting tonight, and then the dates will be set and we'll be ready to roll. I am very excited over here. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Me, do I need to pass the chair? No, I'll hang on to it then. Yes, also planning, lots happening, some changes happening in Barton Village in terms of events and things like that. Full swing planning for Barton Village Festival, which you can mark your calendars, will happen June 13th this year. Hearts for Barton will start February 1st and run for the entire month all the way through to the 28th because we have so much fun doing it for 2 weeks that we can't wait to do it for 4 this year. New sandwich shop called McAllister's just opened close to the hospital they're actually right next to Jamie Waldron butcher shop, and there's a new barber shop in the BIA as well. So we're excited about those things. We did have a bit of a hit to our team in that we lost the chair of our Streetscape and Beautification Committee. Unfortunately, Brenda Duke, for those of you that knew her, she was a big part of our team, and has not been in the greatest of health for some time, but unfortunately lost her battle. And so visitation for her will be held on Saturday in the Ottawa Street BIA for those who wish to attend. I'm happy to share further details with regards to that. Couple things that have come across my plate that I will be looking forward to bringing to the next meeting. One specifically with regards to the delegation that I did yesterday at GIC, looking to sort of rally the troops within this group to put together a letter that can help to support advocacy to the province in changing the responsibility framework that currently exists to include commercial. So I'll be bringing that forward for the next meeting to have a discussion about. Yeah, that's it from me for now. May I have a mover and a seconder to receive the statements from members? Moved by Tracy, seconded by David. All in favor? The motion is carried. There being no further business, I'll pause for that. The business improvement, I'd like to call the Business Improvement Area Subcommittee adjourned at 11:37 a.m. Thank you, everybody.
Good job, Nadine.
Thanks, Nadine. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.